Recovery tip number 9, learn your liabilities and limitations. And why is this important? Because if we don't have an awareness around what can take us out, there's a high probability that it will take us out, right? So I will say this, the beginning of my recovery journey, I like ran to the NA rooms, right? I ran there for the first, I'd say like 18 to 24 months, like consistent NA meetings. And one of the things that they say is like people, places, things, and it is so true, right? So in my journey, I came out of rehab and I made like a clean cut, right? I clean cut the entirety of what my life looked like before. And I like packed up and I moved across the country, and I was able to focus on just learning how to stay sober, right? Learning how to stay clean and in a safe place where there were no people, places, and things for me to be like, oh my gosh, I used to do so much drugs at this place, or oh, I saw so-and-so, right? So for me, I took that quite literally, and I like ran for about the first 2 years of my recovery. I really just made a clean cut from people, places, and things. And the reason I did that was because looking back at previous attempts to get sober, I was able to like pinpoint like, I was vibing that day, and I went back to this friend who I used to use with, and one thing led to another, and next thing you know, I'm in a full-blown relapse episode, right? So I didn't want to repeat that. I really wanted to find recovery, and so I had to take responsibility. Like, okay, what was my part in that? Oh, I was the one who called a friend. I was the one who went to that bar. I was the one who, so I was able to pick out portions that I could safeguard against and do something different. So not participating in people, places, and things for those first 18 to 24 months like really, I think, helped me stabilize my recovery. And I'm not saying that that's ideal for everybody, but for me at the time, I was so willing and desperate to find a new way to live. And what was in my life before this last stint in rehab, it wasn't working, right? It wasn't working for me. So until I could learn what was it about these circumstances and these friends that helped contribute to me becoming vulnerable and at risk to use again, well, I really had to pick that apart, but I had to do it in a safe environment, right? And down the line, after I had some clean time and I was finding a good rhythm in recovery, like, I'm not saying that I completely cut off everything and everybody, but there were like certain places for a long time, I'd say like 3-4 years, that I was like, that's association with my old life and I don't fuck with that, right? But now if you fast forward, I'm working my 8th year of recovery. I used to have so much fun in karaoke bars in my young days. And a lot of my friends do sing and they are musicians. And sometimes we will just go out and just fellowship at the karaoke bar and listen to other people sing and sing, not as Beatrice Love, the singer, but just as like, as a person. And so when I started to realize that like this is going to be part of my life, like I want music to be part of my life. And 99% of the time when you're in a music venue, they serve alcohol, right? And I can't run from this fear because I made bad choices before. I got to like face it, but like in put safeguards in, right? So I'd go with sober people, or I'd go with people who weren't drinkers. And maybe I would spend half an hour at a karaoke bar. That wasn't my favorite karaoke bar. Or maybe I would spend an hour. But then as soon as that warning sign goes off, like, I'm feeling uneasy, man, I'm feeling uncomfortable, like, okay, I'm going to listen to that. I'm going to just, dip my feet in, and now I'm going to go take care of myself and take care of my recovery. And now in my 8th year, like working on my 8th year of recovery, it's not an issue. I can go to a casino, I can go to like a concert, I can go out with friends who drink. Like, it's a totally different thing now. But like, I was able to crucify the liabilities at the time and increase my limitation, right? So before, I didn't have the skills to kind of support myself in those things, but now I do. And that came with a lot of like deep diving work and like, okay, what was it, like pinpointing it? What is it about that place? Or what is it about that person, right? And then recognizing, well, it's actually a behavior, or it's actually the way that they say something that was the trigger, you know what I mean? Or something, being able to identify what it was specifically, right? And then being able to develop a safeguarding system around that to stay safe and keep my recovery intact. So, and I will say as a word of encouragement that down the line, as I built my recovery, I was able to make space. So, challenge myself safely in environments where I'm like, oh, I am a little uncomfortable, but let's see how it goes, right? I can call somebody. There's still time to hit a meeting. Okay, I'm with sober friends. Okay, they support my recovery. It's all good. Let's sit with this for a little bit, right? And over time, I've been able to build my capacity for things that might have taken me out 7 years ago. They're not real risk now. But there are some things that can hijack me in an instant, right? Violence is one of them. Being around certain people is a big trigger, right? And it's not necessarily like there's the bad person, but it's like specific behavior, right? Specific character traits, right? That can hijack me. So it's a lot of like deep diving work, but really being able to externalize and look at the perspective and be able to pick it apart. And once you know your liabilities, your limitations, and you can actually do something about it. But the first part is like having awareness around what those are.